Welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're going to be going way back in time to explore Jainism.
That's right.
And we're going deep, folks.
Really going to be diving deep.
Especially for those of you prepping for the UPSC exam.
Absolutely.
Ancient history can be a tricky beast.
Yeah.
But this is pure gold for your GS1 paper.
We're going to unpack the Jain councils.
Ooh.
These pivotal events that really shaped the foundation of this ancient religion in its scriptures.
All right.
And even if you're not on that UPSC track, this deep dive is going to offer a glimpse into a world of just profound thought and ancient wisdom.
I love that.
That's relevant even today.
So imagine this India centuries before the Common Era. We're talking about one of the world's oldest religions.
Wow.
Jainism taking root and flourishing. But here's the catch.
Okay.
Their teachings were initially passed down orally.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
No fancy scrolls, no printing presses, just the power of memory and the spoken word.
Think about how much knowledge we lose, even with all of our modern technology.
Yeah.
For centuries, Jainism relied on these incredible teachers called Tirthankaras, enlightened beings who guided their followers towards liberation.
Right.
And these teachings, the essence of their beliefs were entrusted to the spoken word.
Wow.
Passed down through generations.
Okay, I can see where this is going. As fascinating as oral traditions are, things can get a little fuzzy over time, right?
Exactly.
Like a giant game of telephone.
Yeah.
Details get lost. Interpretations differ. You need something more concrete, especially when you're dealing with spiritual teachings that form the bedrock of a religion.
Precisely. And that's where the Jain councils come in.
Okay.
These were critical moments, almost like ancient summits, where the Jain community came together to address this very challenge.
I like that.
Imagine monks gathering from all corners, debating interpretations, and ultimately striving to preserve the essence of their faith for generations to come. Talk about high stakes.
This is sounding less like a history lesson and more like a thriller.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's set the stage for the first council picture.
All right.
A devastating 12-year famine grips the Magadha region around 300 BCE.
Right.
This isn't just any drought, folks.
No.
It's a turning point in Jain history.
It is.
Forcing the community to make tough choices that would have a ripple effect for centuries to come.
This famine wasn't just a physical hardship.
Right.
It was a test of faith and resilience.
Okay.
And within the Jain community, we see two key figures emerge, each responding to this crisis in their own way.
Interesting.
We have Bhadrabahu, a revered leader who decides to migrate south with his followers to escape the famine's grip.
So smart.
But then there's Stulabahu, another prominent figure who chooses to remain in Magadha.
Wow, talk about a fork in the road. So you have this physical separation, but it sounds like it also becomes a philosophical divide, right?
You're absolutely right.
Like these two groups start to develop slightly different interpretations of Jainism based on their experiences during this turbulent time.
And this is where the plot thickens.
Ooh, I like that.
Amidst this turmoil, Stulabahu convenes the first Jain council in Pataliputra. The primary goal to organize and codify the teachings of Mahavira, the last Tirthankara. Think of this as the moment when the oral tradition starts to transition into a written form, giving birth to the Angas.
Wow.
The foundational texts of Jainism.
Okay, so now we have scriptures, the Angas.
Yeah.
It sounds like a major step towards solidifying and preserving these precious teachings. But what about those two groups, the ones separated by the famine? Did they ever reconcile their differences?
Well, not quite. In fact, the first council sort of solidified the division between them. We see the emergence of two main sects, the Svetambaras, meaning white-clad, who chose to wear white robes, and the Digambaras, meaning sky-clad, who renounced all clothing as part of their practice.
Wait, they gave up clothes entirely. Okay, there's definitely more to unpack here.
Yeah.
So we have this dramatic split, a codified scripture.
Yeah.
And all this is happening against the backdrop of a devastating famine.
Yeah.
This first council is anything but boring.
Indeed, and it gets even more intriguing when you consider that one of the 12 Angas compiled during this council. The 12th Anga is believed to have been lost.
What?
Imagine that an entire section of their foundational text vanished.
That's like losing a chapter from a sacred book.
Right.
It makes you wonder what secrets it held, how it might have shaped Jain thought.
Yeah.
If it had survived. And it perfectly sets the stage for our next stop. the Second Jain Council.
It does. So you're prepping for the UPSC and you're probably thinking, okay, I get it, these councils are important, but why exactly? Well, here's the deal. Understanding these events isn't just about memorizing dates and names. It's about grasping how a major religion evolved, how its core teachings were shaped and preserved, and how those events still resonate today.
That's a great point. It's not just about rote memorization. It's about understanding the context and the implications, which is key for acing those UPSC questions.
Exactly.
So let's fast forward a few centuries to 512 CE. We're now in Vallabhi in present-day Gujarat for the Second Jain Council. What's the driving force behind this one? Was it another crisis like the famine that triggered the first council?
Not a famine this time, but definitely a sense of urgency. Remember those Angas, the foundational texts that emerged from the first council? Well, even with them in writing, there was still concern about potential errors creeping in, interpretations diverging, or even sections getting lost, just like that mysterious 12th Anga.
Ah, so it's like a software update, making sure everything is running smoothly and patching any potential bugs. So this second council is all about double-checking, refining, and ensuring the accuracy of those core texts.
Exactly. Led by Devarti Shema Sarmana, this council meticulously reviewed and recodified the existing 11 Angas, ensuring they were accurately preserved in their original language, Artamagadi Prakrit. It was a massive undertaking, a testament to their dedication to safeguarding the teachings of Mahavira.
Okay, so they've got the 11 Angas locked down, but let's be honest, the mystery of that missing 12th Anga is still bugging me. Did they uncover any clues during this second council, or is it lost forever like some ancient scroll swallowed by the sands of time?
Sadly, the second council confirmed what many had feared the 12th. Anga was indeed lost, a fact that continues to tantalize scholars to this day. What did it contain? How might it have filled in the gaps in our understanding of early Jain thought? These are questions that keep historians and religious scholars up at night.
It's a reminder that history is often a puzzle with missing pieces, leaving us to speculate and piece together the fragments we have. But hey, that's part of what makes it so fascinating, right?
So they've secured the 11 Angas, but did they add anything new to the mix during the second council? They did. The second council not only preserved the existing Angas, but also introduced 12 supplementary texts called Upangas. Think of these as expansions, delving deeper into specific themes, providing additional interpretations, stories, and details that enrich the Jain canon.
So the Angas are like the main course, the essential teachings, and the Upangas are like the side dishes adding flavor and nuance.
Yeah.
And for our UPSC folks, this is all super important because these texts are the primary sources for understanding Jain philosophy and practices.
Exactly. And here's where things get really interesting. Remember those two main sects we talked about, the Svetambaras and the Digambaras? Well, their differences extend to the canon itself. The Digambaras don't accept all the Angas and Upangas as authoritative, which adds another layer of complexity to the study of Jainism.
Okay, my brain is doing a bit of mental gymnastics here trying to keep all this straight. We've got Tirthankaras, the enlightened teachers, Angas, the core texts, Upangas, the supplementary material, and two main sects with slightly different views on what constitutes the canon.
It can seem a bit overwhelming at first, but trust me, once you start delving into the actual content of these texts, it all starts to make sense. The beauty of these scriptures lies in their depth and the profound insights they offer into the human condition.
All right, so all this talk about scriptures has me curious. What exactly is in these Angases? What kind of knowledge did they consider so important that they went through all this effort to preserve it?
Well, the Angas primarily deal with the lives and conduct of Jain monks. They lay out the rules and principles that guide their spiritual journey, emphasizing nonviolence, self-discipline, and the pursuit of liberation.
So it's not just about religious doctrines, but also a practical guide to living an ethical and meaningful life, even for those who aren't monks. And this is where we start to see how those ancient teachings can still resonate with us today.
Absolutely. And for our UPSC aspirants, understanding the contents of specific Angas can be a game changer. For example, the Acharanga Sutra, which outlines the code of conduct for monks, provides valuable insights into the strict principles of Jainism and its emphasis on nonviolence.
Okay, so picture this. You're sitting in the UPSC exam hall, and a question pops up about the Acharanga Sutra. Thanks to this deep dive, you're not just staring blankly at the question paper. You can confidently explain its significance, its contents, and even connect it to broader themes like the impact of Jainism on Indian society.
That's the power of understanding, not just memorizing. And let's not forget the Bhagavati Sutra, a vast and complex text that delves into a wide range of Jain doctrines, from cosmology to karma. It's like the ultimate guide to Jain philosophy and a treasure trove of information for anyone seeking a deeper understanding.
So we've got two councils, a missing scripture, two main sects, and these fascinating texts that offer a glimpse into the heart of Jainism. It feels like we've covered a lot of ground, but I can already sense that there's so much more to explore.
There is. And what's remarkable is that these councils held centuries ago played a crucial role in ensuring that these teachings survived and continued to inspire generations of Jains. Their efforts to preserve and codify these texts have given us a window into an ancient world of profound thought and spiritual seeking.
It's a reminder that history isn't just about dusty scrolls and forgotten empires. It's about understanding the ideas, beliefs, and struggles of those who came before us, and how those legacies continue to shape our world today. All right, so we've journeyed through centuries, explored these two Jain councils, uncovered a lost scripture, and we've delved into the world of these Jain texts.
We really have.
It's been quite an adventure.
It has.
But before we wrap up this deep dive, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned.
Okay.
And why it matters, especially for our UPSC aspirants out there.
Yeah. What stands out to you from all this?
What surprised me was how much Jainism places an emphasis on nonviolence, even in the face of real hardship, like that 12-year famine.
Right.
It would have been easy to abandon their principles in a time of crisis, but instead it seemed like it solidified their commitment to ahimsa nonviolence.
Yeah, and that's a great observation and something that often comes up in the UPSC exam. You might get a question about the impact of Jain philosophy on Indian society, or how its principles of nonviolence influenced later movements like Gandhi's Satyagraha. Understanding the historical context and the nuances of Jain thought can really give you an edge in those essays and analytical questions.
It's like connecting the dots across centuries.
It is.
So for our listeners who are just starting their UPSC journey or maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all the information, what key takeaways would you highlight from this deep dive on Jainism?
First and foremost, remember the two Jain councils and their significance.
Okay.
The first council in 300 BCE marked the transition from oral tradition to written scriptures giving birth to the Angas.
Right.
The second council in 512 CE reaffirmed those texts and added the Upangas, expanding the Den canon.
And let's not forget that split between the Svetambaras and the Digambaras. It's a reminder that even within a single religion, there can be different interpretations and practices.
Absolutely.
Knowing the distinctions between these two sects and their beliefs and their approaches to the scriptures is crucial for the UPSC exam.
It is, and when it comes to the Angas, focus on understanding the key themes and contents of the most important ones.
What?
The Acharanga Sutra, with its strict code of conduct for monks, and the Bhagavati Sutra, which explores a wide range of doctrines, are essential reading for anyone serious about mastering Jainism for the UPSC.
And hey, even if you're not on the UPSC track, knowing about these texts and the councils that shape them just gives you a deeper appreciation, I think, for the rich history and the philosophy of Jainism. It's like unlocking a hidden treasure trove of wisdom and ethical insights.
Yeah, here's a final thought-provoking question for all of our listeners to ponder.
Okay.
We've talked about how the Angas emphasize nonviolence and self-discipline.
Right.
But how do those principles translate into action? How might they influence the way Jains interact with the world around them, not just in ancient times, but even today?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. It encourages them to think critically about the connections between beliefs and actions, something that's valuable not just for exams, but for life itself. And if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity to learn more, don't stop here.
Please don't.
There's a whole world of resources out there waiting to be explored, from Jain libraries to online platforms.
Remember, every journey begins with a single step, and who knows, maybe this deep dive was just the first step on your path to discovering this fascinating world of Jainism.
Until next time, happy exploring.